Hey everybody, I'm Sean. Thanks for stopping past my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I created this embroidery design with my Bai Mirror 1501 embroidery machine, and I sew it to the back of this jacket. I do want to emphasize that this design, the lion itself, was a purchase file from Etsy, and I will leave the shop's name in the description. And I created a border to make this design a patch using Embrillance Stitch Artist, which I'll do in a completely separate video so that I could just do a short video showing you how I use Embrilliance to create this design or turn this design into a patch. Okay, so let's go get started on this project here. Okay, so for this project, I am going to be using my 12 by 15 Mighty Hoop. I am going to use the Mighty Hoop and not the hoop that came with the machine, simply because the Mighty Hoop holds the stabilizer a lot tighter, and once I have it in there, I don't worry about it shifting or anything. I'm also going to be using some wash away stabilizer. This is the Vilene type. It almost looks like a no-show mesh, but it is wash away. I am going to double this, and then I'm going to be using some cotton twill. Please don't ask me what the weight is because I honestly cannot recall. It's the darkest cotton twill that I could find at Michael's, okay? Michael's Craft Supply. That's where I got this from. So, and it is on like the pre-cut roll, but I didn't save the label, so I do apologize for that. But I'm going to use this twill here, and I'm just going to add the Heat and Bond light to the back, okay? And I'm using the Heat and Bond light in case you've never seen any of my other patch videos, because it will allow me to, number one, cut this without it fraying, and it will also allow me to cut it really, really close. Well, without it fraying. That's the whole point for me. I'm not using this so that I can iron it on. This is to give it the support and stability that I need for it to be cut as neat as possible around the applique, and to actually be able to get it close enough so that the satin stitches cover it. So I am going to proceed with the next step. Now, because the bottom frame of my Mighty Hoop is a lot wider than the stabilizer that I have, I am going to double it, and I'm going to have to also stagger it. So I'll show you what I mean. So I've got this piece that I'm going to literally just fold over, and I want to make sure it is going to be doubled and allow some to hang over the edge, because you want to make sure that it's going to hoop well. Okay, then I'm just going to slide this up here, and then I'm going to do this again. And cut it. Now, if you have stabilizer that fits your hoop well, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to stagger it. So this is what I mean by staggering it. So it's doubled and staggered because they are doubled. And then in the part where it's staggered, yeah, it's going to be like 4 layers, but that's fine. I'm not going to tape it or anything, but you could if you wanted to tape it just to make sure that it stayed down or stayed together. And then I'm just going to put the Mighty Hoop top part on. I will pull it just to make sure that it is as taut as possible. And that is it for this part. Okay, so I cut the Heat and Bond light, and while the Heat and Bond light is smaller than the piece of fabric that I'm going to be putting it on, it's still bigger than the actual design that I'm going to be stitching. I'm going to situate it so that it's actually running down the middle from, let's see, I want to go from the longest side. Okay, so I'm gonna iron it down, let it cool, and then I'm going to peel it. And this will be the back side of the patch. So after the placement line is stitched down, I'll lay the back side face down onto the hoop, onto the stabilizer, and then it'll stitch the tack down, and I'll trim before it proceeds with the rest of the design. But you'll see in just a moment. Okay, so I've ironed the heat and bond light so that it's adhered to the back of the fabric. And one tip, when you use heat and bond, roll a lint brush over your fabric before you put it down on it. So now, when it's adhered and it's cooled, you'll just peel it off. And sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it rips in sections. But you're just going to peel this all off and then just sit it aside until you're ready for it, okay? You see, it's going to be shiny on this side. This will be the back side. So I'll finish peeling it and set it aside until we're ready for it. Okay, so now I have the hoop on the machine with the 2 layers of water soluble stabilizer that's kind of overlapping each other in the middle. Not kind of, it is overlapping each other in the middle. So now the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to trace to make sure that the design actually fits in this hoop without bumping, because the Mighty hoops, the dimensions aren't standard like the hoops that come with it. So I always do a trace to make sure that my needle is, or my presser foot is not gonna bump against the frame, okay? So just looking really closely at the screen of the Bai, if you come over here to this start button, if you press that, that will give you a general trace, okay? Now that it's done a general trace, the screen changes slightly and the float option appears. That float option will give you what some people would call an outline trace, to where it traces exactly what the outline of your design is. And so when I do this, I'm gonna show you, a lot of people hold down the presser foot, and normally I don't, but I can't find my little device that I use to not hold it down. But anyways, I'm going to press this so that you'll see what I'm talking about. It'll give you this message, and after a few moments, it will get ready to trace. It does take a few moments. And so some people will hold the presser foot down like this. I like to just have, I have some skewers or some sticks that I will hold just next to the presser foot, just in case the design is too big. I don't want it to bump against the Mighty hoop and end up bending my presser foot. I have replaced quite a few. I think I'm on presser foot number 4 now for that number 1, just because I've bent them while holding it down and the design is too big for the Mighty hoop. So I know that this is not too big of a design. I really could just hold it down a little bit just to see exactly where it's going to fall in the frame. But once it finished tracing, it will be ready to be stitched, because we know that this does fit and nothing is bumping. Okay, so we're going to get ready to stitch this out. The first step is going to be the placement stitch. And it should stop and push out just a little bit right after this stitch is done. Okay, so it's stitch this the placement stitch. Now I am going to place the fabric down, making sure that whatever covers the line has the heat and bond light on the back, because I want to make sure that when I get ready to trim this up, it actually has heat and bond light on the parts that I'm going to trim. And sometimes it's easier to slide this under. Sometimes it's easier to just take this off of the hoop, not take it off the hoop, take it off of the machine and float it. But let's see here. I think that is good. I certainly have a whole lot more fabric than I needed, but that's okay because I would rather have too much than too little. So this is the thing that I was talking about. It's just a dowel. It came in like a multi-pack, and I don't know what craft I had this for, but I had a pack of these, and I figured these are a whole lot safer to use when you have your finger down in the hoop instead of having your finger down in the hoop while your needle is going, as well as when I trace, I will just hold it down next to the presser foot number 1. So I have the fabric on here. I'm going to hit for the next step so that it will do the tack down stitch, and then it'll stop again so that I can take it out of the hoop, and then I will trim it. And I'm going to use this dowel just to make sure my fabric doesn't shift as it's stitching down, because it is literally just floating across it. You can use a light adhesive spray like 505 if you would like, but I'm just using this. And I'm kind of waving it around just to make sure that nothing's kind of bunching up. I don't want any bubbling or anything like that. Not bubbling, but you know, I want everything to lay as smooth and flat as possible. Okay, so now it is done with the placement or the tack down stitch. I'm going to take this out of the off of the machine, and I'm going to trim this up, and I'll be back to the machine. Alrighty, so I did trim as close as I possibly could all around the edges. I just used these little curved Fisker scissors to get all the way around the edges. I have a few different types of applique scissors that will trim around the edges. So you choose whatever you like when it comes to that. But I'm going to put this back on the machine, and we are going to get ready to stitch it. Now this part should be the satin stitch that will go all the way around before it actually starts stitching in the part of the design that gives it its design. I'm going to let this stitch out, and I will be back to check on it. Okay, so it is still stitching the border. This design has a total of 71,520 stitches. This is going to be a very long stitch out, so I will just record segments of it, and if any errors or craziness happens, I'll definitely record that so you can see what I do if I need to resolve anything. But yes, 71,520 stitches, and I am only running my machine at 750 stitches per minute because I really don't like to run it fast. So I'll check back in with you. Okay guys, so at this point I had run out of thread in the bobbin. So I am changing the bobbin thread and making sure that it is lined up correctly or seated correctly in the bobbin case so that I can put it back in and we can resume stitching. And because I'm not sure exactly when it ran out of thread, I'm backing it up a few. Need to do is I'm going to trim the bulk of the water soluble stabilizer off, and then I'll rinse what's really close to the edges off, let it dry, and then I will put a little bit of heat applied adhesive just to seal the back. But we'll go to the table now. Okay, so we are at the table. I'm just going to use my scissors to cut away the bulk of this water-soluble stabilizer. And then what is close to the edges and on the back here, which it's not a whole lot on the back because there's so much thread. Ooh, could you even see the back there? You can see. But I will rinse that off. I am going to let the patch dry. Then I will put some, because I'm going to be sewing this on, I really don't have to put any water soluble on the back. I'm not water soluble, but heat applied adhesive. I really don't have to do that because I'm sewing this on. So yeah, I'm not going to do the water, I have water soluble in my brain. Sorry, y'all. I'm not going to put the heat adhesive on the back because I'm going to sew this down. And when I sew this down, I'm literally just going to follow as neatly as I can the edge of the satin stitch. That is it. So let me go and get this rinsed off and cleaned up, and I will be back when it's all dry. Okay guys, so I am back at the table. I did rinse all of the water soluble stabilizer off. For a minute, I was trying to think, why is this so shiny still? I was thinking that I wasn't getting the water soluble off of this, but I forgot that quick that I have heat and bond light on the back of this. So anyways, you'll have thoughts like that for a minute, you know, when you're moving too fast. But I am going to let this lay to dry. I do have this mini fan in front of it to help dry it a little bit faster. And I forgot to tell you all, when you are first putting on the heat and bond light on the back, save the paper so that if you need to press over the patch, you can turn it over, put the paper back on as if, you know, it was still going to be sticking to it, and press from the back side. You never want to press these from the front side, but I'll show you what I mean when we're done with this, okay, after it's dry. Okay, so this patch is dry now. And what I'm gonna do now, because you can see it's kind of wrinkly. If I turn it sideways a little bit, it's wrinkled. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna turn it over so that it's face down. And because all of it is not covered in thread on the back, you do still have some of the heat and bond light on there. I'm using the paper or a piece of the paper from the heat and bond light that I set aside, and I am gonna just iron the back. I couldn't save all of it because remember, pieces of it was tearing, but I'm just gonna press it out from the back side so that I could try to get those wrinkles out. And I can't do the steam because the steam kind of backs up or something. It doesn't steam through this paper. I guess because of the coating that's on the other side. But it is with the shiny side down, just as if you were having the heat and bond light still on it. So I'm just gonna try to iron it out to get the wrinkles out. Hopefully this will do it. And the bottom part feels better, but the top part still has a little bit more wrinkle up there. And I would say, you know, it could be heat pressed to straighten it out, but I'm not gonna turn on the heat press just for one patch. So let's see, that's kind of pulls a little bit, but that is how it looks. Now, if you're going to be having this as a iron on, you would definitely want to use on the back side. I've used Heat and Bond Ultra Hold, or I like the heat pressure adhesive. Oh my goodness, I can't think of what it's called. Heat applied adhesive, that is what the word is. And I get that from Twill USA. So now, let's see here. Yeah, this is some of the heat applied adhesive that I get from Twill USA. And speaking of Twill USA, a lot of people ask me, like, you know, what kind of twill should be used for different patches, and it's truly up to you. Okay, so this is the cotton twill that I use on this patch. Now this is some of the poly twill that I get from Twill USA. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, and the back has adhesive already on it. You can get it with or without the adhesive on it. I have used cotton fabric to make very lightweight patches for like ironing onto t-shirts. You don't really want to have a patch this heavy on a t-shirt, but this is going to go on the back of a jacket so that the weight is okay with this. So it just truly depends on what you're going to be applying it to and how heavy of a stitch you're going to be putting on it. So I am actually thinking, I keep going back and forth with whether or not I want to put some Heat and Bond light on the back, because I am going to be sewing this down. However, I'm thinking I may want to do a light press just to hold it in place on the back of the jacket. So I am going to do the Heat and Bond on the back of it. And let's see here, I'll just use this here so that I could go face down. And this is because I don't want the Heat and Bond, the excess outside of it, to stick to the ironing board. I'll be right back. Okay, so I had a piece of the Heat and Bond light, and this is just light. This is not to hold it to anything on a long-term basis. I'm just using this so that I can adhere it to the back of the jacket so that I can have it in a steady spot to sew it on. And then I use the other paper from the original Heat and Bond with the shiny side up this time so that the Heat and Bond from the top piece that I'm ironing right now doesn't stick to the ironing board. And you do want to just kind of press down as you're ironing. And this is a dry iron. It's still a dry iron, no steam. And I think that's probably good enough. I'm going to let this cool off, and then I'll be able to, let's see here, I'll be able to trim the excess away. I really do like the way that patch came out. And I think that by putting that Heat and Bond light on the bottom or on the back, kind of wrinkled up right there, I think that that helped straighten it out a little bit better. So I am going to peel this away. It's nice and shiny on the back. And you can either tear it away manually or just trim it away very carefully with your scissors. Okay. So I'm just going to go all around and pull this off and try to get it nice and neat. And the patch will be finished. As far as actually sewing it on, I am just going to do a basic straight stitch all the way around the border. And I'm only going to use one stitch to stitch it down really good. And that will be it. So I'll show you at the end how it looks if I can get it stitched out tonight. Okay, so this is the jacket back that this patch is going to be applied to. And it's just I don't know what this is. Is this fleece or something on the inside? But the jacket came from Walmart, and I am going to use this measuring gauge type thing so that I can, I say type thing, goodness gracious, so that I can get it low enough on the back without it being too low. You know, I don't want it all the way down here, but I certainly don't want it all the way up at the neckline. So these little tools, I got these off of Amazon, and if you could tell, it says adult back, but they have one for the adult back, adult front, V-neck, kids, toddlers, all of that. So I'm going to go lower than right here. So I'm just going to drop it down right there. And like I said, I could iron it in place so that I can hold it, but then I am going to go all the way around it. Now, because of the way the fabric is on the inside, I'm not going to be able to get a good ironing in on this. So what I will do is use a Teflon cloth on top. You can use a pressing cloth and iron so that you don't scorch the polyester threads. Okay, I've got my iron getting warmed up. This is the Teflon sheet that I'm going to use on top of this. I also made a smaller version of this patch. It's drying, and I'll do the same thing with this, and this will go on the front left chest, okay? So that's over there drying in front of the fan. And I'm just going to iron this in place. See here, I hope that looks right. I'm sure I shifted it just a little bit, and that's oil or something. I don't want to iron that into this jacket. It's time to replace that one. I'm not sure what got onto that, but this one is old as well, but I know that it doesn't have any oil on it. And I'm just going to be pressing this just enough so that the heat and bond will get warm and adhere to the fabric. And if you don't want to do the heat and bond, you can certainly pin it down, which is what I normally do. And so the heat and bond is starting to warm up. Just want to make sure it's not melting the threads. And it's not. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this cool. And I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm just going to do a straight stitch following all the way around here. I'm going to pin it down as well, just in case all of it is not adhered good. And I will be back. Okay, so for this part, I'm not going to show the actual stitching because my sewing area is a little cluttered and I don't have anywhere to sit my tripod. But I'm going to be using the SQ9285 computerized sewing machine by Brother. I did purchase this at Walmart maybe 2 years ago or so. I'm not sure exactly when, but it stitches really nice. I was looking for a more heavy duty machine. I do have a Singer heavy duty, but I wanted a Brother heavy duty and they didn't have any on the shelf when I needed one. So this is what I ended up with. So I'm going to do that straight stitch all the way around the edging of that border on the patch, and I'll show you the final results. Okay, so this is not going to be the best angle to show this being stitched down, but just because I'm a visual person and I know a lot of people like to actually see what I'm talking about, so I am clearing a little bit of space over here so that I can get the camera over here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to always start off by hitting reverse, just so that I can make sure my stitches are locked down. And I'm going to go pretty slow with this because there are a lot of curves with this design. And I want to try to stay on that satin stitch all the way around to the best of my ability. So it is going to take some time just stitching around, but this is just a straight stitch. And I have to lift the presser foot and turn it just a little bit so that I can get all those little angles. Is that where I need to turn it at? Nope, not yet. So I need to go back the other way. Now, if you were stitching just a square or a circle, this wouldn't be so bad. But then using the same color thread as the border really helps, because then if you make mistakes with the stitching it on, a lot of people aren't going to notice that. You'll notice it because you know you did it, but most people aren't going to see that, oh, that black thread went outside of that black border just a little bit onto the black patch part. So that is what I'm doing, and I'm just literally going all the way around, okay? Alrighty guys, so this is the final result. It is all sewn on. I am pleased with the way the design looks, and I did sew the front chest, which is a little bit bigger than your standard left chest, but I do like it. I do need to get the lint roller on it too. But overall, I love this design. I will leave the link for the Etsy shop where I found this at. It'll be in the description of this video. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. And until next time, keep taking care of yourselves.